And we're rolling. All right, Mr. Oliver. So for the people who don't know, why don't you give them your name and position of what you do here at City Hall?
I am George Oliver. I am the City Commissioner in the City of Ocoee for District 4.
So being in charge of District 4, what all duties does that entail for you here at City Hall?
For me, being a commissioner in the city, not only do I represent the citizens of District 4, I have to look at it from a more broader perspective. Not only looking at it from that perspective of the citizens of District 4, I also serve the citizens in the entire city of Ocoee. So I have to look out for the interests of all the citizens as opposed to just my district. And what does that entail? Basically, it involves being able to be a firefighter at times and put out fires whenever there's different things going on. It could be anywhere from traffic to water and drainage issues in different communities. Got to be proactive in my approach when it comes to handling issues within the community. So some of the perfect examples, some of the things that we deal with is we have citizens that need things done but just don't know how to go about getting them done or don't know who to ask to get them done. So I have to make myself available to be able to provide them with the right resources that they may need. It could just be as simple as cracks in a sidewalk that may cause trip hazards, or it could be overgrown shrubbery or bushes that goes out into the road. They have to be able to reach out to me, and I can get them in contact with the right departments to make these things happen, or at least contact departments myself and see if I can get some things done those ways. But it's more or less been a liaison. I look at it being a liaison between myself and the city staff, and it's mostly my servitude is about getting things done for the citizens.
Okay. So when I first met you during the campaign, you brought to my attention our town's history that I think me and a lot of my friends and a lot of people who live here don't know about. So for those who don't know, what was the Ocoee Massacre?
Basically, in 1920, you have a group of African Americans that wanted to vote in a presidential election. They had already registered, so they were already registered voters within Orange County, Florida, to vote in the election. Unfortunately, when the election day came, when it came down to cast their votes, there were a group of white citizens that blocked them from voting, or they threatened them if they tried to vote that they would invoke violence upon them, and which actually violence did incur as a result of that encounter. So the first encounter, you have some words being said. These voters, they were turned away. The voters came back again, and that's when the violence ensued. So you have some white citizens that were basically got into a big ruckus, a big fight over voting, and they sent the African Americans back to their part of town. Well, they figured that wasn't enough, and they figured that the African Americans would come back and try to vote again. So what they did was they formed a lynch mob. So you had a lynch mob of whites, Caucasians in the Ocoee, in the city of Ocoee, that grouped together with other whites throughout in other cities around in Orlando and some of the other surrounding cities, and they went into the northwest quadrant of Ocoee, which housed all of the African Americans in that community, and they literally burnt their homes. They shot and killed and hung men, women, and children in order to force them out of Ocoee. Some got away and ran off into neighboring cities such as Apopka and Orlando. Some went as far as Gainesville and Lake County areas, but they were actually forced out. The homes were burnt to the ground, and most importantly, the records of them owning them homes and that land was also burnt. Was also burnt up in their courthouse. At that time, African Americans consumed over 330 acres of land in the northwest quadrant of Ocoee. They set up a 24-hour, 7 days a week blockade for almost a week, warning African Americans if they tried to come back into the city that they would suffer the same fate of those that were lynched, burnt, and used for target practice. So After a week of this, a week of this, it was very clear that no of the African Americans were even trying to come back into the city, and that was in 1920. It wasn't until 1981, so looking at about 60 years, it went by before the first African American ever moved back into the city of Ocoee.
All right, so I saw recently there was a proclamation that was established, and it's kind of a long read, so I'll probably just post a photo of it here or a link somewhere in the description of this video. But in short, what does that proclamation mean for the city of Ocoee, if you could summarize it for us?
Basically, what it is it's been a long time coming. You're talking about almost 100 years since the Ocoee Massacre, and yet there had never been so much as an apology. There was never any recognition of it ever happening from the community as a whole. And now we get to the point where you have, I'm just going to go back a little bit, when you have in 1920, you have people fighting for a right to, first they had to fight for the right to register to vote. And once that fight was over, then they had to cast their votes. And they fought to cast votes. And they lost their lives for that. And here we are almost 100 years later fighting for a piece of paper to be signed. And understanding what that piece of paper not only meant to me and the citizens of Ocoee, my family, and those throughout Central Florida, it meant so much more than just a piece of paper being signed and acknowledging that it happened. It meant that there was a blood debt that we all owed. And I'm not talking about just African Americans. I mean Caucasian, African Americans, Asians, anyone that decided that they want to live in the city of Ocoee. The day that you took up residence in this city, it became your burden as well. You became a part of the history of this city, and you had a debt that was owed to the city. And what does that debt mean? It means that how do we get started? And one of the things that was proposed, that we brought to the table, was a proclamation. And what does this proclamation mean? It means that, for one, that we as a city, as citizens of Ocoee, recognize what happened in 1920. We recognize the lives that were lost in 1920. Not only did they lose their lives, they lost their livelihoods, they lost their property, they lost their hopes and their dreams. Because you got to understand, in 1920, for an African American to own, any African Americans to own over 300 acres of land in any city was a feat, because they were just one generation off from slavery. So they had nothing. To build something in the city, for it to just be taken away, to build it, and then for it to be taken away in a blink of an eye, is devastating. And to start all over again, it's enough for people to lose hope. And it reminds me of James Weldon Johnson when he said, when it says, hope unborn had died. When we're talking about lift every voice and sing, one of the verses says, when hope unborn has died. That means you don't even really know what hope is. And you can't identify with hope. And it was dead before you even realized what hope was. And I think that was stripped away from the people that suffered from the Ocoee Massacre. This proclamation was a debt owed to those that perished. It was a debt owed to those that still live to this day. It was a debt that we had to pay in writing, in words, to recognize and acknowledge that these terrible things happened. And not only that we apologized to those that were affected by it, both black and white, that lost their lives in the Ocoee Massacre. And this massacre, this proclamation, is just the beginning of a long list of things that need to be done in order for us to heal and come together as one Ocoee. So
this town used to be known as the Sundown City, correct?
That's correct.
And would you say we are on the path to no longer being referred to as such?
I believe with the signing of the proclamation and the verbiage that reflects in that proclamation proves that. Because the verbiage says that at one point we were recognized as a sundown town, which means that you need to be out of our city or never come to our city and never be caught here after dark. And I believe that this proclamation verbiage states that not only are we known as, we should never be known as a sundown town, but it's Sunrise City. And what does that mean? A Sunrise City means that we're a city of light, a city of light, a city where we were once in darkness, and now the light has been cast upon us to recognize our dark past, but also be able to move forward from that past. So now we're recognized as a Sunrise City that is all-inclusive. We are one of the most diversified cities throughout Central Florida at this point, and we welcome all to come in our city, to live in our city, to cherish and prosper with us in our city. As our city continues to grow, we welcome all those that are willing to come and grow with us and move forward with us.
So you are the first minority to ever hold a seat on the city commission, correct?
That's correct.
So for me, like, I met you during your campaign, I said that already, but you were like a real personal, close showing to me that representation can make a big difference. So with these recent elections with Andrew Gillum, Stacey Abrams, I guess what advice would you give to, you know, those high school seniors, those young college kids who maybe voted for the first time and, you know, they just got that first real life sucker punch in the gut, and I guess what would you tell them to prevent them from becoming that next generation of black kids who say we don't vote because when we do it has no meaning?
You know what, that's a very good question, and it's, there's some deeper thought to an answer to a question like that. For the simple fact is this: if I may use my own election as an example.
Yeah.
The first time I ran for office, I lost by 20 votes. 20 votes. I mean, there's 21 people decided that they're not going to come out and vote. And out of those 20 votes, I can probably hold up on two hands 8 people in my own neighborhood that actually forgot. They forgot to come out and vote. They forgot the date. Some of the people actually had signs in their front yard with my name on it, and they forgot to vote. So that's 8 people out of 20 that I know that just missed it. So what does that mean as far as your vote not counting? I hear this all the time. Every vote counts. So if you ever wonder if your vote counted or not, I'm a living witness. I lost by 20 votes. So what I would say to the young people that are out here, that they voted and they got that, as you call it, that gut shot, and we end up, I wouldn't say we lost the election, we were unsuccessful at this point. But all I can say is keep your hope, keep your faith, because God is still in control, and everything is done for a perfect reason. When it comes to His will and how things unfold, everything unfolds for a reason. Now, I would also encourage you to continue to vote in your local elections. Whenever there's a local election, get out there and vote, because this is where it starts. It starts here with boots on the ground in your local election. Your city commissioners, your mayors, your state representatives, your state senators. This is where it starts at. So I'm going to say continue to exercise that right that people died for. I'm not sure if we can, if most people can really fathom what that really means. That means that someone decided to take a piece of paper and they wanted to go and cast a vote. And when they went to this voting place, someone told them, no, you can't vote. And on your way out, we're going to lynch you for trying to do it. What does that tell you? If people are willing to kill you for the right to cast that vote, don't you think that it's important not only to them, but it's important to you too? It must be something powerful about a vote. If people are willing to lay down their lives, for one, you got people that's willing to kill for it. They're willing to kill you just because you want to cast a vote. And then there's people willing to lay down their lives and knowing what could happen to them just because they're trying to cast a vote. That should tell you right there, that is one of the most important things that you can do in your life, is cast a vote. Everyone counts. Every single vote will count. Don't be the person that wakes up the next morning and say, I shoulda, coulda, woulda, when it gets down to 20 votes. My little vote could have counted, along with my neighbors and my friends. I know 20 people that could have voted. Don't be that person that realized that they could have done that. Be the person that wakes up the next day, win, lose, or draw, that I know that I did everything in my power, not only to cast my vote, but to make sure my friends and my neighbors cast their vote as well. So again, vote. I don't care what election you vote in. Vote in every election that you're able to vote in, but vote as if your life depended on it.
Getting ready to wrap it up here. So are there any upcoming events, developments, or anything that the city's citizens of Ocoee should be aware of for right now?
Well, right now, for me, as far as I am concerned, I am wrapping up for my youth initiatives. We're starting to create a youth city commission or a youth council, where we have a youth mayor, youth commissioners, as well as a youth city manager, city planner. And we're starting this project January 1st, where we'll be recruiting kids to come out and apply for these positions. We will have hands-on. We want to be able to teach our youth how government works. We want to teach them all the ins and outs of government. How do we create agendas? How do we push forth resolutions and different bills and municipal codes and those kind of things? We want to be able to inform our youth. So this is one of the things that you look forward to, that, as well as I'm taking a group of 25 kids from our middle school to the Louisiana State Capitol to teach them how to write bills, how to defend bills, how to push for bills and how to pass bills, and how to elect officials to go through a political process. And that'll be coming up in the fall of 2019. I'm sorry, the spring of 2019. So those are some of the things that I'm pushing right now. I'm pushing my youth initiatives, as well as starting to create some mission for our city. Right now, our city doesn't have any core values. We have no mission or vision. I'm in the process of drafting a four-pillar core value system that will hold up our mission and our vision. And I will be presenting that to our city commission, and hopefully we'll adopt a resolution that we're able to adopt our mission and our vision as a city. I've also adopted the hashtag #OneOcoee, so whenever you see me put anything out, it's always going to be hashtag #OneOcoee. That's because we're all together in this. We're in this all together.
All right, so my last question is, so for people who want to be more involved or want to know when they can come sit on the city council meetings or whatnot, when and where are meetings held, or where can they get information about how to contact you guys?
Yeah, we make it very easy to be able to get information about our commission meetings. Our meetings are the first and third Tuesdays of every month. They're also publicized on our website. They're also publicized in the West Orange Times as well. So you can also call our main number. They'll give you all the information you need to know about our meetings, our planning and zoning meetings, our CRA meetings. Any kind of meetings that we have are all well publicized within at least 48 hours of that event. But our city commission meetings, always the first and third Tuesdays of each month.
Now, I saw they get the ones that each one you have gets posted to YouTube after, so if anyone misses that, they can catch it.
Absolutely. The meetings are televised. I think it's Spectrum 493. But if you miss the meetings, you can always go to the city's website and you can look at the meetings on YouTube. We have YouTube links on our website. You can always look at those meetings on YouTube in order to stay informed as to what's going on in our city.
All right. Well, thank you, sir.
Thank you.